Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the News Behind the News with Ralph Cantav on Mix 94.7 FM. Today I'm joined with Vanessa Fraser, the director of the Safe Haven Foundation. So good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to you, Ms. Fraser, and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Ralph. Thank you so much for having Safe Haven here, giving us an opportunity to share the work that we do at Safe Haven with our community. Good afternoon, everybody viewing and listening. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Yes, it's thank you as well for accepting the invite because Safe Haven definitely plays a critical role in our society. Of course, we often wish that we live in a society, a country free of problems, but that is not the case. And so we have people like yourself, but organizations that seek solutions, to help ensure that things can be better. And before we get into the work that Safe Haven does and so forth, could you tell us a little about yourself and also what led you to Safe Haven?
Okay, I sure can. I'm not from St. Martin. I wasn't born here, but I'm definitely one of those persons that was born to be on St. Martin. St. Martin has been my home for the past 16 years. I grew up in Curacao, studied in Holland, and came to visit my sister here in St. Martin, actually, and fell in love, and I stayed. I have an educational background in human resource management and career development with a minor in working with vulnerable groups. So that has always been a pull and a passion of myself to allow others to make more leeway, to make progress in their aspirations and to give guidance in that area. In that sense, I have always had a focus on empowering individuals. And that's why after Irma, I felt compelled to start a women's group called St. Martin Women Strong. And the purpose of the group was to bring persons together, particularly women, in social activities, but also to create learning moments and to create an opportunity, especially to learn from each other. Because at the end of the day, as human beings, we all go through the same things. And by sharing that with each other, we can expand our knowledge in a manner that we don't have to make the same mistakes that others did, right?
Indeed.
So that's being the founder of that group kind of attracted the then board of Safe Haven towards me. They saw the work that I was doing in the community, and that is how I ended getting an opportunity to become the director of Safe Haven.
Okay, great. I found it interesting. I actually forgot that you had you founded the XSM Women Strong, basically. So what was some of the, stories or experiences that you realized many women had in common that shared in that setting?
What we realized is that here in St. Martin, unfortunately, because it's a small community, persons tend to be very reluctant to share their private stories because you don't know how the other person receiving that is going to interpret that information or what it is that they are going to do with that. So one of the things that stood out is the need of women to actually come together and have that collective understanding and opportunity to be together and listen to each other's stories. What we would do is we would discuss different topics, such as having a work-life balance, such as body image, and we would organize also social activities, such as hiking. In 2018, we had a big expo at the USM, allowing other groups that also service our community to come together and talk about their work with persons in our community. Like you said, our community is faced with a lot of social problems, and there are a lot of individuals out there working hard to make a difference. But persons don't always know that these services are available. So the point of the expo was really for persons to know what alternatives they have and where they can find support. And where St. Martin Women Strong is concerned, it really was an opportunity to allow persons to express themselves, learn from each other, but also to understand that they are not alone in the challenges that they face in life.
Mm. That's really lovely. And so upon entering the safe haven, what was the condition of the foundation like, and what was your vision, upon entering as director?
When I started working at Safe Haven, that was in April 2020, 2 weeks into the lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a situation where, as humans, we are faced with an unprecedented situation that we don't understand. We don't know what to expect. We don't know what direction it is going. And here I was in a role that is foreign to me, and in an organization that I was new to, and with a virus that was threatening to take us all down, And the first thing that I did was secure everybody's safety and health. So with that, with a little bit of information that was available to us at the time, I created a COVID-19 guideline for Safe Haven, because we needed to have measures in place that persons can feel that their safety is being is at the forefront, and that it is important, and that there is structure, of course. So that was one of the first things that I implemented at the time, and then afterwards you can start looking at what else needs to be done, right? So because of my background in human resources, for me it was very important to start at the core. And the core of any organization is its workforce,
True,
right?
Very true.
Yeah, you can only be as strong and as capable as an organization as that your workforce is. So that is where I started, to understand the individual challenges and needs of the workforce, and build on that. Well, the service that we provide is very sensitive, and it requires that at all times the persons that we serve know that they are the most important, that they feel safe, and that they feel protected. And you can only do that if you are in a good place yourself.
That's true.
Yeah, so that was very important for myself and my team, and that is what we started working towards. At the time when I started, we had a full house at the shelter, and of course there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of panic. Nobody knew what was happening. You're already dislocated. Our clients are already dislocated. They had to move out of their home because of the harmful situation that they were faced with. And then now you are in a shelter and dealing with a pandemic, and it compounds the trauma that persons are already dealing with. So with my staff having a sound mind and having the capability to face what it is that we are dealing with, they were able to reflect that onto the clients. And I must say that around the globe, there were many shelters that had to close during the pandemic. Safe Haven was open all the time. And when I reflect on it and the work that the team did and how the clients responded to it, to a situation that we had no manual for, no blueprint, it was all raw. And the team handled it so well. And that is, you can see that by the way that the clients respond, There was peace, there was harmony, persons felt taken care of, and that group of ladies that we had at the shelter at that moment, they all successfully transitioned into a community, into their independent lives, and they are still self-sufficient.
That's great.
So that is very, that's very telling,
Okay. So did COVID affect you guys in any other sense, particularly whether it's funding-wise or even the support you received before? Did you notice any drop in that? And can you give some details on that?
2020 was a difficult year for everybody, and it kind of trickled into 2021. So in 2020, we didn't have many opportunities to, for example, execute fundraising events, right? But the CSO community, the civil service organizations on St. Martin, so the NGOs, they are so powerful, they are so strong, they are so active, and they are a very tight-knit community. A lady, Jose Summers from Empower, which is actually the umbrella organization for all NGOs, she does always say NGOs are the tertiary sector on St. Martin with all the work that we do. So we received a lot of support in that area. We were receiving food, we were receiving physical support for anything that needed to happen at the shelter. And in that sense, we received a lot of backing, not just from our peers, but also from individuals in the community that are always mindful and have safe haven on their mind. And when there is an opportunity to give, they do. So it helps a lot. Where funding is concerned in 2020, it was not so much a lucrative year.
Yeah, I can imagine.
This year, however, Safe Haven has been receiving a lot of blessings that we can pass on to our people, to those that we serve. So we are grateful for that.
That's great.
Yes.
And so besides COVID, the foundation and the island on a whole also had to recover from the prior devastation, which was Irma.
Correct.
And then how did Irma, or did it damage Safe Haven in any way? And how was that the recovery process for the foundation in that way?
I must say that at that time, in 2017, I was not a part of Safe Haven, but everybody has an Irma story, right?
Yeah.
And so does Safe Haven. What happened is that at the location where we are, it's an undisclosed location.
Yes, correct.
But our entire roof was gone. Our entire roof was gone. So it was a mess, to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And my colleagues that experienced it speak of the horror stories and how they were just sweeping water out of the rooms and how much of our archives were damaged and furniture. And yeah, it really was a big setback. Fortunately, this line of work makes that you have to be resilient, right? Because at all times you have to care for others, so you can't really settle into your own sorrows, right?
Yeah.
So
on your belly, basically.
yes. So after the big cleanup, fortunately, the director at the time, she identified an opportunity for a grant. The organization, but all foundations basically do a lot of grant writing in order to receive funding for projects, right? So she wrote a grant to basically revamp Safe Haven. And that was very fortunate. Now we are back up and running. The place is looking great.
Nice.
Our ladies are comfortable, and we can offer them a space that is a healthy environment, and that makes them comfortable.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, that's great. So. Sorry, I'm still on the Irma because I'm wondering, are you guys looking to? So you were able to, of course, fix the roof and fix
with the help of the
areas.
landlord.
Yeah.
He fixed the roof and fixed all the areas. Yes.
But is Safe Haven also looking to gain new locations or develop another complex? Let's say, because do you find that where you are is adequate enough, to provide the level of care that you guys provide people?
It has been for many years. Of course, with everything, there is a shift in how we also approach domestic violence matters, right? Mm-hmm. What we are confronted with now is that our facilities don't allow for us to accommodate, for example, male victims. Okay? Mm-hmm. So while we would offer external support, we can't offer them temporary housing because given the type of trauma that persons experience, it's not conducive to mixed genders.
Understood.
Yeah? So in that sense, yes, in our planning and our strategy for the organization, we are looking at a location that would allow us to do that. And also the reality of the matter is that now we are renting. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, it has only exacerbated the effects of domestic violence, where it's at a rise at the moment. So we don't.
Very sharp rise, or
especially in 2020, we saw a very, very sharp rise. It was painful, to say the least. And but to come back to your question, if we see ourselves moving from that location, we would like to own our own building, and we would like to have a building that allows us to accommodate males as well that need to escape toxic environment. So yes.
As in the wider context, it's not only women, although women by large tend to be the ones who are victims of domestic abuse, but you do have men, who...
There are men.
And it is, not to mention, it's very taboo,
It is very taboo,
things, yeah.
But I also...
Which we gotta destroy.
Yeah. There is so much to say about that, Ralph. Now, I do want to emphasize that, yes, there are male victims. At the same time, unfortunately, where relational violence and domestic violence is concerned, it mainly impacts women.
Correct.
By far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is this statistic that I know most people are familiar with, but it's 1 in 3 women that are globally affected by domestic violence, and most of the time it is perpetuated by men.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. And then the statistics reveal that it is 1 in 7 men that are affected by domestic violence, and in that sense, it's still women that require the most care, nurturing, and attention, and for us to be vigilant around our immediate circles and around our community, that they get the protection that they need.
Okay. So on the note of, Safe Haven having its own facility and so forth, have you guys been considered or contacted in regards to the trust fund? Maybe have you had any conversations in accessing some of those funds provided to St. Martin to gain your own location?
Now, where it comes to that conversation, it's a conversation that we are having internally at the moment.
Okay.
And we are exploring what alternatives we have to actually realize that that project, to make it a reality. So we are still in the beginning stages. So maybe at a later date, I can give you more information about that.
Okay, that's no problem. So in regards to Safe Haven in general, I think that's one thing I realized I didn't kind of establish from the beginning, which is what exactly does Safe Haven do, and the care and service that you provide to persons. So can you give us details on that?
I like that question because most persons know that Safe Haven provides care for women and their minor children that are in an abusive situation, that are experiencing a toxic environment and harmful environment at home. But indeed, that is not all that we do. When one of our other focal points is that we provide advocacy and awareness, and we also provide education to our community, not just to our clients. Now, where our support services are concerned and our educational programs, we acknowledge that every client that we attend to has a different set of needs, right? We don't discriminate in race, in sexual orientation, in status, if someone is documented or undocumented. So when persons come to us, It can be as simple as someone having a situation where, hey, I need to find housing, but I do have a job. And sometimes this extends to I am undocumented and I don't have a job, and I am traumatized to such an extent that I don't even know if my mental health will allow me to pursue all these things. So that complicates the support and areas of need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it becomes more expanded. It becomes more, there's more weight to it.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of it is that even though we are a small organization and we have limited resources, there is a lot that we can still do, especially because we have a close working relationship with our chain partners. So while there are gaps in our social aid system, we are creative and we fill those gaps. Now, we assist with all areas that our clients might need help, and that varies from job hunting, from receiving mental health care, from starting the process of becoming documented, finding affordable housing, finding furniture to put in the house, right? Helping identify food programs that can help alleviate the household so that all the burden of having a small income is not stressed with having to, for example, purchase groceries. So, as I was saying, we are creative in finding solutions, and there are a lot of ways and means that we offer support with the assistance of our chain partners.
Okay. One of the things you mentioned that I'd like you to elaborate on is, of course, that you house women and minor children.
Mm-hmm.
So teenagers are not included? Or up until what age as a child does Safe Haven shelter?
Understood. Because of the kind of work that we are engaged in, we allow young boys up to the age of 14.
Okay.
After that, we have to consider hormonal development, right? And we have to consider that it might create conflict in a house full of women.
That's true.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we allow boys up to the age of 14 and girls up to the age of 18. After 18, you're basically an adult. So then it is expected that you're able to provide for yourself. You're not a minor anymore. You're not a child, right?
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. So I guess in considering in your future facility, you would, I guess, factor in that sector or that part for males, for older males.
And that's why it is so important that in the future facility we have the possibility to separate the sexes.
Yeah.
So that for us, as Safe Haven workers, it is very important that everybody that comes to us feels safe.
Yeah.
We can't remove you from your home and tell you come by us, and we don't offer that safety. So, however we develop into the future, and however our strategy develops into also accommodating males, it has to be in a manner that persons feel safe and protected at all times.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things in listening to you that comes to mind is the fact that you assist persons in so many ways. So I could imagine that you do also spend time networking with businesses, connected with other institutions, to provide that support. And so how is that like in your experience?
It is a two-way. It is a two-way, and that makes it so great. Sometimes we would reach out to an organization. For example, with the Mental Health Foundation, we have a MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding. And we have that, for example, as well with the Court of Guardianship. So we have very clear guidelines and agreements in place on how it is that we will offer support to each other. And then persons are so aware of what it is that Safe Haven does. And unfortunately, most people would have some kind of direct or indirect experience where domestic violence is concerned. So when we pick up that phone and we ask a questions for assistance, I must honestly say it has never happened yet that we are rejected, or that persons don't tell us, hey, maybe we can't help, but we will see if this other person can do something, So where that is concerned, we have formal agreements in place, and also informal for those unforeseen situations where you just don't have any resource for yet.
Gotcha. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Okay.
Good afternoon, viewers and listeners. You're tuned into the news behind the news. And this afternoon, I am joined with the director of Safe Haven, Ms. Vanessa Fraser. And so one of the things I would like to get into now is what is Safe Haven currently doing? What activities do you guys have planned that's coming up?
I will tell you about activities that we have planned in a minute. I first want to tell you that this has been a very exciting year for Safe Haven, if I might say so. It's always a little bit bittersweet, right? Because as a foundation, we have been given the opportunity to expand our services and programs. Like I said, the NGO community is always developing and striving to grow and to better meet the needs of those we serve. So this year, the probation department, SCIA Bay, they have provided the educational opportunity for us as stakeholders to expand our services by incorporating services that actually allow us to attend to meals, and then in the form of behavioral change programs and mediation programs, and that will allow us to give persons the opportunity towards restorative justice. For a long time, the focus has been on protecting victims by removing them from the harmful situation that they are in, right? Mm-hmm. And while that is very much necessary, we also hear our clients saying like, hey, the situation that I'm in, it's harmful for myself, it is harmful for my children, but the person that is abusing me is not all bad, to say it simply. I just wish that the abuse could stop.
Yeah.
That is something that we hear so often, yeah? So with the programs, with the education that we have received as stakeholders, it allows us to bring persons together and to gain a deeper understanding of what is at the core of the problem, and allow them to become active participants in finding a solution, and allow them to explore how the support that they need in order to bring about a change and actually preserve their family unit. So that is something that I wanted to share because it's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, our families are the backbone of our community.
Yes,
and
indeed.
If we can find ways of keeping our family units together, then that is something that persons must definitely have access to, right?
Yeah, because there is a need, for restoration of families, but also to move past this the dysfunctional elements of our practices, because some of these things we make it cultural in the sense that we take it as a norm and you pass it on. But I would like to get into that, but before I do, can you detail the different types of abuse, though? Different types of abuse that women tend to face, because it definitely goes beyond just physical abuse.
Yeah. Physical abuse is one of the forms of abuse that you can identify easily because there are bruises or the person is clearly hurt or in physical pain. And that is also one of the reasons why abuse that is, for example, emotional abuse or psychological abuse is so it is silent abuse, right? And it is also a form of abuse that is difficult to detect, and persons don't always acknowledge the severity and the harmful nature of it because, hey, people cuss, right? Yeah, so what is your problem really? You had an argument with your partner, just move on. Now, the difference is that when it's systemic abuse and it happens over a long period of time, it takes away everything that that person stands for and is. It makes them doubt their capabilities of functioning independently, of making healthy decisions. It makes them lose who they are at their core, and it weakens them and it as a human being. Now, where abuse is concerned, yes, there are different forms of abuse, but any situation that you are placed in and you are in an intimate relationship and the balance of power and control is leaning towards the one partner, that is an abusive situation. Yeah? Whether it's in a physical sense, an emotional sense, financially, definitely sexually. If as a person you don't have autonomy over your body, this person doesn't respect your boundaries, this person doesn't respect you saying, I don't want to share my body with you, whether it's your husband, boyfriend, or lover, persons have to respect your body, right? So that brings me back to the unbalance of power and control. If that is the situation in your household where you're not allowed to contribute to financial decision making, then it is an unhealthy situation.
Very toxic.
It's a very toxic situation. You are in a situation where your human rights are not being considered. Yeah, where your needs are made to seem irrelevant and you don't have a voice in the relationship. So that is abuse. That is abuse.
Yeah.
When you are not allowed to represent yourself in that environment and are not considered as an equal. And when we use that word equal, it raises a lot of discussion, right? Men and women can't be equal because we are different in so many ways, and men are strong, men are physically strong, women not so much. Women are nurturers, and men are not, and women can't expect to be the same as a man.
Yeah, and then you have when people talk about, for example, submission and so forth, you know, that woman must submit to man. But
and then we speak of religion.
Yeah, but then it's like partial though, because the Bible also says, you know, that for men you must submit to your wife as well. And I think we have a skewed view of submission because like how I put it is like submission is strength under control. It doesn't mean, you know, as a man, I'm speaking as a man, if you to submit to your wife doesn't mean, or either way, but it doesn't mean that, you know, you go on your knees and you do everything the person tells you. You lord over you're allowing to lord over you. Is that willingness to how to say, put aside your pride, to humble yourself, but not in a sense that it's dysfunctional or toxic or abusive,
and that it denies you from being the person that you are, right?
Correct.
Because when we talk about equality, it can be simplified. Because what it's really about is that you are a human being and I am a human being. So let's acknowledge and respect each other in that manner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
And when you have that simple understanding, I mean, we can get very scientific about it, but when you have that simple understanding that we are both humans and we both have rights and needs and need nourishment, and we both have a right to speak up and say what it is that is on our mind, then you can already let go of a lot of preconceptions that are misplaced.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, and one of the things we last discussed too, you know, one of the reasons why this is we do get that a lot of persons are unwilling and fearful to share their story, and we sometimes live in our society can sometimes be individualistic, where we don't think that what's happening to someone is of our concern, but it really is. Whether whether it's something happening to your colleague or you as an employer, because there are so many signs beyond, again, the physical abuse or damage or scars, because someone who is abused, will react in so many different ways. It can affect their way that they function in society. With children, we know the dangers, or the negative role that children can take if they live in an abusive situation. So it is our business because it affects us as a whole.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But even further than that, domestic violence weakens the economy. It weakens the healthcare system, and it, like you said, it has a far-gone impact on all our lives. Maybe it's just not as easily visible that we can acknowledge that, but it goes even further than what you just said, because if we really look at the part where you said that we have to focus on the individual, everybody knows that children that witness abuse either become victims or abusers.
Yeah.
Yeah? So why would you set your children up for failure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's well said. But in addition to that, like we mentioned earlier, certain things, we do as a matter of, I would say culture, just in the sense of the fact that, we see it, we think it's a norm, we make it a norm, so we pass it on. But one of the things that are really being addressed, that we see particularly in our generation, is, the way in which the relation of men and women, basically. Mm-hmm. And so how would you say we can address those negative parts of our culture where particularly men feel like they have that control over women, and even as far as just perpetuating domestic abuse?
Gender stereotypes are really at the root of one of the root causes. There are others, but it's definitely one of the strong root causes that perpetuates domestic violence. Women are expected to behave a certain manner, men are expected to behave in a certain manner. And in our community, it has just been decided by the collective, by random people, that men are supposed to be macho, they are supposed to show little emotion, they shouldn't even show too much joy, because why are you so happy about, just, be stoic and be have that demeanor of a strong male that can handle anything and doesn't feel nothing. And for women, we are supposed to be nurturers and carers and
docile.
And docile, right? Mm. Yes. And it goes from generation to generation, right? And that is what we are running with. That is what we have accepted thus far. And if you ask me what we can do about it as a community, it's by having these conversations that persons need to have the freedom to explore their own identity. But that is so easier said than done, because there is so much at the core of the way that we view gender roles that you can't just come with a simple statement like let people develop their own identity and be who they are. It is ingrained in us, in our thinking, in our actions. It is a habit. And much like any kind of other habit, like, for example, smoking, it's a hard habit to kick, and it takes work. And that is where the not just the conversation, having the conversation comes into play, but also mental health care comes into play. Mm-hmm. It is very important to have an understanding and self-awareness of how we as individuals view gender norms and how we stand in it. Because you can't go about by changing the world by approaching it in as a mass. It starts with yourself, right? And having these conversations. Before I sat down in the studio with you, I was talking to a couple. They are both psychologists, and they are also here having a conversation about mental health, And that is what we have to do. We need to keep having these conversations. We need to keep providing education. We need to keep providing awareness. We need to keep giving persons the opportunity to understand where their beliefs are coming from and how they are shaped and formed, and that not because this is how we have always done it, that it needs to continue that way.
I hear you. One of the things, scenarios that is in a sense pretty common even in certain films and all, is that you would have women particularly who endure abusive relationships with someone of status, like a man who is very well known, popular, a leader, let's say, and then there's this deep fear that their story wouldn't be believed because the male may have this great social image, but is a monster at home. Or what do you say to persons in such a situation to come out and seek help, seek shelter? Because that's something that definitely does happen here at St. Martin too.
Yeah, you use the scenario where the abuser is an affluent person and has a certain status in the community and has a certain position, but you will be surprised and you will be shocked how most abusers are such charming persons. In the community, they are viewed as outstanding men. Oh, that is a good guy, and you can always count on him, and it's a good time, and and then when they are at home with their partner, and it's a completely different story. So it's like a trademark, or like the characteristic of abusers to have this image on the outside, and then this violent and aggressive behavior at home, which completely contradicts with what it is they are showing.
It's like a veil.
Yeah. It's like they have this need to be liked by others, but then at the same time they
would rejection be at the core of that?
Now this is the thing, I'm not a psychologist.
Sorry.
Okay, so I can't go that deep with you,
okay.
Right? For my line of work, I have an understanding of the methods and the technical aspect that's come into play.
Gotcha.
But I'm not a psychologist.
Gotcha.
Yes. So it's different things that come at play. It's, like you said, maybe a rejection that was experienced during childhood. At the same time, abusers are plagued with a lot of insecurity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then because males are expected to not show emotion, but aggression is an acceptable behavior, and also aggression is an acceptable behavior because it ties into the macho part, right? And then at the same time, it's an emotion that allows you to express your pain and your hurt without being vulnerable. So it's the go-to emotion for so many persons, and especially if you are in a society where you have to conform to this model of what a male looks like, then you're going to follow through with what it is that you know that you can get away with, to put it simply, right?
And I love that you said that because, really, it's the weakest thing a man could do. And I say that because it really takes guts to be vulnerable.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of guts to be vulnerable, like you said, because you're opening yourself up to rejection again, right? Persons don't always know how to deal with the vulnerability of others because it confronts them with their own vulnerability. And that is something that persons are not comfortable with, being vulnerable. It's a sign of weakness, right? When being vulnerable, like you said, is having the ability to really be strong, because you can acknowledge that there is something that makes you, that you're not comfortable with, there is something that you don't appreciate, and you're standing up for yourself, you're representing yourself, and you're including that other person in a dialogue. That means that you're brave. Unfortunately, society has made it into something else.
Yeah, and like I said, these are things we gotta destroy. Literally, the tabooness of even this discussion, we gotta break it, because when I think about it, it's like, okay, you're taught as a man to be strong. Yeah, you can lift. You know, your wife wants you to open a can. It's like, yeah, I mean, I could open it for you, but it's more than been lifting weights. It's more than even the imagery, the outside, the cosmetics of whether you get a certain type of car, because no, it's like it's far deeper than that. It's so to an extent you're not even being honest with yourself, and so it's like we as men, as a society, really have to chop away and tear down that culture of living a falsified life, I would say.
Yeah, but that means that there has to be a safe space to do that. Because men who, for example, have feminine traits, to say so, men that are have nourishing qualities and are tend to be caregivers, they are rejected.
Yeah, that's true.
They're ostracized. They're ridiculed. Yeah, they are considered to not be real men. And that doesn't help men to come forward and claim their space in that arena.
It's like you're being pushed back into the previous mold.
Exactly. It's basically you're being said that, hey, that on that part of you that is so understanding and considerate, we don't want that. That is strange. You're acting like a woman. Right? So it is so conflicting, because at the same time, persons express in relationships that they would like their partner to be more understanding and more engaging and more sensitive. And when those attempts are made, it's not being received with love and with care. So then how are men supposed to bridge that gap if they are not giving that opportunity or that safe space?
I love that you said that. Yeah, thank you for that. So is there, my final question for you is how else can persons assist Safe Haven, and who do they contact? What's the number that they can call, and if they want to help in any way?
We are always, in fact, our mission relies on the help of our community, so that is always welcome. People donate clothing, people donate food, people make financial contributions, people donate their talent and their skills and their network, and that is equally worthy and important for us. For now, I'm going to say that anybody who wants to contribute to Safe Haven, be aware of the activities that we will be organizing next month. Next month is our local Domestic Violence Awareness Month. That is
the month of November.
That's the month of November, yes. That is an opportunity for us advocates and chain partners to engage the community into awareness activities and educational activities. So that is what we'll be doing. We have different activities in the pipelines, and I'm sure that our organizations do as well. So look out for that. Educate yourself and start by developing your own understanding of what domestic violence means and how you can become an agent of change by not perpetuating what is causing domestic violence at the moment. Really, that is enough. Just try and not be that person. Just try and not be that person that inflicts violence, but also know that if you are the person on the receiving end, that there is help. You don't have to go through this alone. We are here. Pick up the phone, 523-6400. I repeat, 523-6400 or 9333. We have a website. We have Facebook. Reach out to us. Ask a question. If this is your life and you're being held hostage in a violent situation, it doesn't have to continue like that. We are here to hold your hand through it. It is difficult to make that first step. But that call you're going to make or that question you're going to ask, we won't hold you accountable to make any or try and force you to make any kind of decision. We just want you to be informed of your options.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for, again, for being on the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Ralph.
Right,
I
great.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So to our listeners and viewers, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation, that you definitely took away some key pointers as well. Do take care, and we'll see you again next time.
Yes.